If you're using Claude for pretty much anything work-related, Claude Skills are your ticket to better efficiency, cheaper usage costs, and all around better outputs. See, in the old days, you'd open your LLM, you'd start a new chat, and you end up typing the same context in every single time. I remember when ChatGPT first came out, that's all anyone was ever doing was just typing in the same background information every single time. You'd end up with these really long, kind of incohesive prompts that covered all sorts of information because you were effectively trying to package in this localized knowledge into a chat window. Well, with Claude Skills, you no longer have to do that. And the way Claude Skills actually work, it's worth understanding for a second because it's kind of clever and it actually ends up saving you a lot of the costs up front. Because whenever you have multiple skills installed, Claude doesn't just dump all those skills into one context window all at the same time. It loads a short description for each one, about 100 tokens roughly, and then it figures out which skill actually applies to what you're asking. So only then does it pull in the full instructions. So you can literally have dozens of skills available at any given time without burning through your context. So there's a number of user-created Claude skills. I have many Claude skills that I use for meeting notes, for SEO work, for AEO work, for brand knowledge databases, and I can use these skills to build up my project folders as well. So in addition to having many user skills available, there's also skills that were released by Anthropic themselves. So there's Anthropic's own front-end design skill, which is honestly one of the more useful ones if you do any kind of web or React work using Claude. The core problem it solves is the AI-generated front ends tend to look the same. So you'll have the same purple gradients over white. You'll have that kind of bluish purple with white or black. And it just has that very predictable kind of AI slop look, which is really not what you want to be publishing. You want to make it look unique and stylized and look like a human stylized it somewhat. And of course, have it appear coherent to your brand. That's a big plus as well. And this article here actually talks a lot about that quote AI slop. And it's really kind of accurate if you're not careful. So what the front end skill is designed to do is it thinks about the aesthetic direction before it writes a single line of code. So it factors in what's the tone of the website or app that we're creating, what makes it memorable. It bans a bunch of overused fonts by name and pushes Claude towards the more bold, intentional design choices that will look a lot better and will look way less AI generated. So if you're building landing pages, portfolio sites, or anything client-facing, I think is a big value add for that. And it's in Anthropic's official skills repo, so it's totally free to use. Now, then there's the Vercel skills collection. They shipped a whole set of these, and the three that I think are worth knowing are the web design guidelines skill, the React best practices skill, and the composition patterns skill. The web design guidelines one is basically a linter for UI, UX. It checks your code against over 100 rules covering accessibility and keyboard navigation, things like that. Some of the other touch targets, semantic HTML, all these stuff that you would care about as a designer, developer. And then the React best practices one has 57 performance rules across 8 different categories. It's really excellent. And then you have UI/UX Pro Max, which is a community skill from a creator called Next Level Builder. And it's probably the most ambitious one I've seen. It ships with a Python CLI tool that searches a design database over 50 UI styles, 97 color palettes, 57 font pairings, and 99 UX guidelines. You describe the product you're building. It's going to generate a full design system recommendation with reasoning, including patterns, colors, typography, which effects you want to use, which anti-patterns to avoid. And you could use this in tandem with Claude Design, which of course is Claude's newest sort of design branch out tool where you can build wireframes and mockups, and you can feed that information from these existing skills as well, which is really useful. Now for the writers and the content people out there are community examples from places like Substack and Reddit where things get really practical. Someone built a voice DNA skill where you feed it writing samples, it extracts your sentence rhythm, your vocabulary patterns, the structures you never use. It builds override rules so Claude stops trying to correct your intentional choices and it goes with what you're feeding it exactly. And then someone else built this newsletter QA skill that audits draft of newsletters for voice drift, things like that. For developers, the superpowers collection on GitHub keeps coming up as a daily driver for people doing serious code work. It includes a systematic debugging skill that makes Claude trace the full code path to root cause instead of just patching systems. And there's many other skill possibilities. Here's a few of the skills that I personally use on nearly a daily basis. And I'm always adding to this repository, so it's currently in flux right now. You can see that I have about 1.5 million skills. This is increasing by the day. I have skills for SEO roadmap creation, for GBP audits, for content calendar creation, for technical audits, for e-commerce content, for brand knowledge, AI visibility checks, meeting notes, all these sorts of things. And this aids my workflow tremendously because I can just go to the Claude chat window and say, hey, I need to use this skill to solve this problem. And it knows all this background information that we have in our markdown files, and it will create that solution in way less time than it would take me to, fill a chat window with all that context. And it's pulling from this exact markdown that includes Python scripts in many cases. So if I'm ever creating a client-facing document or a sheet, it's going to use that Python script. It's going to execute that Python script to make sure it's providing the exact font and stylization that I need in those docs. Because previously I was using @ANN, I was using Make and Zapier for document creation, and the stylings on those documents would be all over the place, really inconsistent at times. But now using Claude Skills and using those Python scripts, I can make everything much more consistent and get it right the first time instead of having to reiterate. So I highly recommend this. I also have a skill for Page Optimizer, which I've talked about in past videos, but Page Optimizer Pro is a fantastic tool for creating content. And so I have a skill that feeds the content brief from Page Optimizer into Claude and creates unbelievable content every single time. So definitely check that out. I also have a code for Page Optimizer in the description if you want to try that. But anyway, thanks again, guys, for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.